Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. In the South China Sea, a dangerous confrontation is unfolding, one that has the potential to ignite a much larger conflict. The standoff between China and the Philippines is growing more intense by the day, with both sides refusing to back down. These waters are a vital artery for global trade, carrying trillions of dollars worth of goods each year. Any disruption here could send shockwaves through the world economy, affecting everything from energy supplies to consumer goods. Tensions have escalated dramatically. Ramming incidents, water cannons, and even hand-to-hand clashes are now common. Each encounter brings the risk of injury, or worse, a deadly miscalculation. The risk of miscalculation is high. A single mistake could trigger a global crisis, drawing in regional powers and possibly even the world's superpowers. For the Philippines, this is about defending sovereignty, protecting their people, and safeguarding the livelihoods of thousands of fishermen who depend on these waters. For China, it's about asserting power, enforcing historical claims, and demonstrating its growing influence in the region. Every encounter is a test of international law and freedom of navigation, with the world's major powers watching closely and sometimes sending their own ships to assert these principles. The world is watching as the conflict threatens to disrupt supply chains, unsettle global markets, and strain alliances that have held for decades. The South China Sea is a powder keg, and the fuse is burning short. Each new incident brings the region closer to the brink. Both nations' actions are under intense scrutiny, with the international community hoping for a diplomatic breakthrough before it's too late. This is more than a territorial dispute. It's a struggle that could reshape the global order, shifting the balance of power in ways that will be felt for generations. The stakes are too high for anyone to ignore. The world holds its breath, hoping that diplomacy will prevail over confrontation. To understand today's conflict, we must look back, far beyond the headlines, to the deep historical currents that have shaped the South China Sea. For centuries, these waters have been a crossroads for trade, culture, and power. But in recent decades, they've become one of the world's most hotly contested regions. The South China Sea, once overlooked by global powers, is now a vital artery for international shipping, rich fisheries, and untapped oil and gas reserves, making it a prize that many nations covet. China's sweeping Nine-Dash Line, first drawn in 1947, claims nearly 90% of the sea, an assertion that overlaps with the exclusive economic zones of Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, and others. These claims have been met with fierce resistance, not just from neighbors, but from much of the international community. In 2013, the Philippines took a bold step, challenging China's claims at an international tribunal. The landmark 2016 ruling sided with Manila, declaring China's historic rights invalid under international law. But China dismissed the verdict outright, accelerating its construction of artificial islands and transforming reefs into fortified military outposts, changing the landscape and balance of power in the region. Under President Duterte, the Philippines tried a softer approach, seeking economic ties and dialogue with Beijing. Yet Filipino fishermen continued to face harassment, and tensions simmered just below the surface. With President Marcos Jr.'s election in 2022, Manila shifted to a more assertive stance, vowing not to cede any territory and stepping up naval patrols to defend its claims. This pivot reignited tensions, ending the relative calm of previous years and bringing the dispute back into the global spotlight. Today, the South China Sea dispute is front and center, with both sides unwilling to back down, each accusing the other of provocation and aggression. The stage was set for the dramatic escalations of 2023 and 2024, as the world watched a centuries-old struggle flare into a modern-day flashpoint. Two flashpoints define the current standoff: Second Thomas Shoal and Sabina Shoal. At Second Thomas, the Philippines grounded the BRP Sierra Madre in 1999, manned by Marines as a symbol of defiance. China surrounds the outpost, blocking resupply missions with aggressive tactics. Each mission is a high-stakes gamble, risking injury and escalation. Sabina Shoal, closer to the Philippine coast, became a new front in 2024, when Manila anchored its largest Coast Guard ship there. China responded with a blockade, creating a tense, months-long standoff. Control of these shoals is strategic. Losing them would cut off Philippine access to key areas. The blockade's end in September 2024 showed China's ability to sustain pressure. Here, the dispute over maps and laws becomes a dangerous physical contest. In 2024, the South China Sea standoff reached a boiling point. Harassment incidents soared, with Chinese vessels ramming and damaging Philippine boats. The most violent clash came in June, when Chinese Coast Guard personnel boarded Philippine boats, injuring several soldiers. The world was stunned by images of direct violence at sea. At Sabina Shoal, the Philippine ship faced a months-long blockade and damage from collisions. Even brief truces quickly collapsed as China resumed aggressive tactics. The cycle of confrontation and fragile lulls defined the year. China showed it was willing to risk injury and condemnation to enforce its claims. Each encounter raised the risk of a deadly miscalculation. The region edged ever closer to open conflict. Outmatched militarily, the Philippines turned to transparency as its weapon. Under President Marcos Jr., Manila began documenting every Chinese action, embedding journalists, and releasing dramatic footage. Viral videos of Chinese aggression shifted global opinion, exposing the reality at sea. This strategy galvanized domestic support and drew international condemnation of China. The Philippines seized control of the narrative, using soft power to counter Beijing's might. However, transparency alone can't stop Chinese ships or resolve the dispute. Some warn it could provoke even harsher Chinese responses. The world now sees the conflict clearly, but the risks have only grown. The transparency gambit has raised the stakes for both sides. The standoff's impact is felt far beyond geopolitics. The South China Sea is a lifeline for global trade. $3 trillion in goods pass through each year. Any disruption would send shockwaves through supply chains and economies worldwide. For Filipinos, the pain is personal. Fishers are chased from traditional grounds, losing their livelihoods. Coastal communities face economic ruin as catches dwindle and food security erodes. The Philippines is blocked from exploring vital oil and gas reserves, stifling growth and energy independence. Defense spending soars, diverting funds from education and infrastructure. Instability scares off foreign investment, deepening economic woes. The conflict destroys livelihoods and undermines the region's future prosperity. The cost of confrontation is measured in lost opportunity and daily hardship. From Beijing's view, China is defending ancient territory, not acting as an aggressor. Chinese officials blame the Philippines for provocation, accusing Manila of staging incidents and manipulating global opinion. China rejects the 2016 tribunal ruling as a political sham and sees control of the South China Sea as vital to its security and national rejuvenation. Beijing's leaders warn they will use all means to defend their claims. This deep conviction makes compromise difficult. China sees itself as resisting U.S. interference, not bullying a neighbor. With overwhelming resources and patience, Beijing is playing the long game. The U.S. has become a central player, backing its treaty ally, the Philippines. The 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty means any attack on Philippine forces could trigger U.S. involvement. The U.S. has ramped up joint patrols, military exercises, and support for Manila. Allies like Japan, Australia, and the UK have joined in, sending a unified message to China. Beijing sees this as a U.S.-led containment strategy and accuses Washington of meddling. High-level U.S.-China military talks are rare and tense. The alliance deters China, but also raises the risk of a wider conflict. The South China Sea is now a stage for great power rivalry. The South China Sea standoff is now one of the world's most dangerous flashpoints, where the stakes are rising with every passing day. Tensions simmer just beneath the surface, threatening to boil over at any moment. Violent clashes and relentless gray zone tactics have pushed the region to the brink. Each encounter at sea is a high-stakes gamble, with crews on edge and the world holding its breath. The Philippines, emboldened by growing international support and a renewed sense of national pride, refuses to back down. Filipino sailors and officials stand firm, determined to defend their sovereignty and maritime rights. China, driven by a powerful mix of historical claims and strategic ambitions, is equally unyielding. Its leaders see control of these waters as vital to their nation's future and security. Both sides are locked in a cycle of escalation, with each move met by a countermove. The risk of miscalculation grows as ships shadow each other and tensions mount with every maneuver. A single miscalculation could ignite a conflict with global consequences, drawing in nations far beyond the region and threatening the peace that so many take for granted. The U.S. alliance means a regional clash could quickly spiral into a superpower confrontation, raising the stakes for everyone involved and making the world watch even more closely. This is a test of our ability to resolve disputes peacefully and uphold international order. Diplomacy, dialogue, and respect for international law are more crucial now than ever before. The world is watching, hoping diplomacy can prevail before it's too late. Every headline, every statement from leaders adds to the sense of urgency and the hope for a peaceful solution. The future of global stability may hinge on what happens next in these contested waters. The choices made here could shape the course of international relations for years to come.